My best friend's husband crossed the line, and I couldn't pretend I didn't feel it too. Before we begin, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these real-life confessions. And if this story resonates with you, give it a thumbs up and share it. Your support means everything. Now let's get into what happened that night. My name is Lucas, and I'm 36 years old. For the past 14 years, I've been part of a friendship circle that felt as permanent and reliable as family. At the center of that circle was Marcus Chen, my best friend since college, and his wife Olivia, who I'd known almost as long. They'd been together since we were 22, married at 25, the kind of couple that seemed to have figured out life while the rest of us were still stumbling around trying to understand what being an adult even meant. Marcus was my person. The friend you call at 3 in the morning. The one who helped you move apartments without complaining. The one who knew your history and your failures and stayed anyway. And Olivia had become part of that bond naturally, seamlessly, in the way that partners of close friends sometimes do when everyone genuinely likes each other. I respected Marcus and Olivia's marriage the way you respect something sacred. Never crossed boundaries, never thought inappropriate thoughts. Never did anything that would compromise the friendship that meant more to me than almost any other relationship in my life. They were safe. Their relationship was safe, and I was careful to keep it that way. Until I wasn't. Until one Friday night in September when something shifted in a way I still don't fully understand. It wasn't planned. It wasn't something I wanted. It was just a moment that happened, and that moment changed everything. The evening started normally. Marcus had invited a group of friends over to their place for dinner and drinks. About 8 of us, all people from our college days, who'd managed to stay connected despite careers and relationships and all the things that usually fracture friendships over time. The apartment was warm and comfortable, filled with the easy laughter of people who'd known each other long enough that no one needed to perform or impress. Marcus was in his element, playing host, telling stories, making sure everyone had drinks and food. Olivia was quieter, the way she usually was at these gatherings. She'd never been as naturally social as Marcus, preferred smaller groups and deeper conversations to the chaos of parties. But she moved through the evening with grace, making sure people felt welcome, occasionally catching my eye across the room with a small smile that I'd always interpreted as friendly acknowledgement. Nothing more than that. Never anything more than that. Around 11, people started leaving. Early mornings, babysitters, the usual reasons. By midnight, it was just me and 2 other friends still there. And Marcus was clearly fading. He'd been fighting off a cold all week, and the effort of hosting had clearly exhausted him. He apologized, said he needed to go to bed, asked if we minded letting ourselves out. We assured him we were heading out anyway. The 2 other friends left immediately. I stayed behind to help Olivia clean up, which was something I'd done dozens of times before. It was our unspoken arrangement. Marcus would host and entertain, would be the life of the party. Olivia and I would handle the cleanup, working in comfortable silence or easy conversation while restoring order to their home. Nothing unusual about it. Nothing that had ever felt like anything other than friendship. But that night felt different from the moment Marcus disappeared into their bedroom. The apartment suddenly felt quieter, more intimate. Olivia was loading the dishwasher while I gathered glasses from the living room, and when I came back into the kitchen, she was standing at the sink staring out the window at the city lights below. Something about her posture looked different. Sad, maybe, or tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. I asked if she was okay. A simple question I'd probably asked her 100 times before, but her answer was different this time. She didn't turn around. Didn't give me the usual reassurance that everything was fine. Instead, she said something that caught me completely off guard. She said she sometimes felt invisible, that Marcus was so charismatic, so good at being the center of attention, that she'd become the person who enabled his shine rather than having her own. That she loved him, loved their life, but sometimes wondered if anyone actually saw her anymore, or if she'd just become Marcus's wife, defined entirely by her relationship to someone else. The vulnerability in her voice made me put down the glasses I'd been holding and really look at her. Look at Olivia, not as Marcus's wife or as part of the furniture of their marriage, but as a person, as a woman who was clearly struggling with something she didn't know how to express. And I saw things I'd somehow never noticed before. The way her shoulders slumped slightly when she thought no one was watching. The sadness in her eyes that she covered with smiles at social gatherings. The woman underneath the role she played so well. I moved closer to the sink, close enough to see her reflection in the window, close enough that she would feel my presence and know she wasn't alone. And I told her the truth, that I saw her, that she wasn't invisible to me, that I'd always admired her quiet strength, her intelligence, the way she made space for other people to shine without needing to demand attention for herself. Olivia turned to look at me then, and there were tears in her eyes. She thanked me in a voice that was barely a whisper, said that no one had really seen her, really acknowledged her as a person separate from Marcus in longer than she could remember, and then something shifted between us. Something in the air became charged with an awareness that hadn't been there moments before. We were standing close, closer than we probably should have been. And I was looking at her not as my best friend's wife, but as a woman who was beautiful and vulnerable and making me feel things I absolutely should not be feeling. Olivia must have felt it too because her breath caught. Her eyes widened slightly. Neither of us moved, but the space between us felt electric, dangerous. Like we were both standing on the edge of something that would change everything if either of us took one more step. I should have stepped back. Should have made a joke or changed the subject or done anything to break the tension, but I didn't, because I was suddenly, viscerally aware that I was attracted to Olivia, not in some vague, hypothetical way, actually attracted, actually wanting to close the remaining distance between us, actually imagining what it would be like to touch her face, to see if her lips were as soft as they looked, to find out what she'd do if I crossed the line that was supposed to protect us both. The realization should have horrified me. This was Marcus's wife, my best friend's wife, the woman I was supposed to protect and respect and keep in the category of absolutely off-limits. But standing there in their kitchen with her eyes locked on mine and the city lights glowing behind her, I couldn't make myself feel the horror I should have felt. Could only feel want. Pure, undeniable want that bypassed every rational thought about loyalty and friendship and what was right. Olivia spoke first, her voice shaky. She said my name, just my name, Lucas. But the way she said it sounded like a question and a plea and a warning all at once. Like she was asking if I felt what she felt. Like she was begging me to either step closer or step back. Like she was warning both of us about what was about to happen if neither of us had the strength to stop it. And I responded. God help me, I responded. I told her I felt it. Told her I didn't want to feel it, that I'd never meant to feel it, that it was wrong on every level I could name. But that standing there looking at her, really seeing her for perhaps the first time, I couldn't pretend I didn't feel something powerful and dangerous and completely inappropriate. Olivia's eyes filled with more tears, but she didn't look away, didn't step back, didn't do any of the things that would have made this easier. Instead, she said the worst thing she could have said. She said she'd felt invisible to Marcus for years, that their marriage had become comfortable and stable but passionless, that she couldn't remember the last time he'd really looked at her the way I was looking at her right now, that she'd convinced herself she was fine with it, that passion fading was just what happened in long marriages. But that being seen by me, being acknowledged and noticed and appreciated, made her realize how starved she'd been for that kind of attention. I knew I should shut this down, should tell Olivia that what she was feeling was understandable, but that I wasn't the solution, that acting on this would destroy Marcus, would destroy our friendship, would blow up 3 lives in ways we couldn't predict or control. But I didn't say any of those things, because Olivia was moving closer, because the space between us was shrinking, because every part of me that should have been stopping this was instead encouraging it. My hand came up to her face. I didn't consciously decide to touch her. My body just moved, driven by desire that had bypassed my rational mind entirely. My fingers traced her jawline, and Olivia closed her eyes and leaned into the touch like she'd been waiting for it. Like this simple gesture of affection was something she'd been missing for so long, it physically hurt to finally receive it. And I confessed things I should never have said. Told her she was beautiful. That I'd always thought she was beautiful, but had kept that thought carefully compartmentalized because acknowledging it felt like betrayal, that Marcus was lucky to have her, and if he'd stopped seeing her, stopped appreciating her, then he was a fool, that any man who had the privilege of Olivia's love should never make her feel invisible, that she deserved to be seen and cherished and desired. That standing here right now, I wanted to be the person who made her feel all those things, even though I had no right to want that. The words kept coming, each one a betrayal of Marcus, but also a truth I couldn't contain. And Olivia was crying now, really crying, but not pulling away, not stopping me, actually leaning closer, her hand coming up to rest on my chest, right over my heart, which was beating so hard I was sure she could feel it. And what neither of us knew, what we had no way of knowing in that moment, was that Marcus hadn't actually gone to bed, that he'd felt worse after lying down and had come back out to find some medicine, that he'd heard voices in the kitchen and had walked quietly down the hallway, planning to join whatever conversation was happening, that he'd stopped just outside the kitchen doorway, hidden in the shadow of the hallway, when he heard his name, when he heard me talking about him, when he realized the conversation wasn't one he was meant to be part of. Marcus stood there frozen, listening to every word, hearing his best friend confess attraction to his wife, hearing his wife confess unhappiness in their marriage, hearing both of us acknowledge feelings that should never have been acknowledged, watching through the slight gap in the doorway as I touched his wife's face, as she leaned into that touch, as we stood too close in his kitchen, betraying him with words and proximity, even if we hadn't yet betrayed him with action. I didn't see Marcus, had no idea he was there, was completely focused on Olivia and the moment we were creating, oblivious to the fact that we had an audience, that the person we were betraying was witnessing the entire thing. I leaned closer to Olivia, close enough that if I moved just a few more inches, our lips would touch. Close enough that crossing the final line was inevitable unless one of us found strength we clearly didn't possess. And in that suspended moment, with Olivia's breath on my face and my hand still cupping her cheek, Marcus stepped out of the shadow. He didn't storm in, didn't yell, just stepped into the kitchen doorway where we could see him, his face completely drained of color, his eyes devastated in a way I'd never seen. Olivia gasped and jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. I dropped my hand and turned to face Marcus, my mind scrambling to understand what was happening. How long had he been there? How much had he heard? The devastation on his face suggested he'd heard everything, every confession, every betrayal, every word that we'd spoken thinking we were alone. Marcus looked at Olivia first, then at me, looked at us both with an expression that was equal parts pain and disbelief, and something that might have been resignation. Like he'd suspected something was wrong in his marriage, but had never imagined this particular betrayal. Like he'd trusted us both absolutely, and was only now realizing that trust had been misplaced. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was quiet, controlled in a way that was somehow more terrifying than if he'd yelled. He asked how long. How long had this been going on? How long had we been having an affair behind his back? How long had he been the fool who trusted the two people closest to him? Olivia and I both rushed to explain that nothing had happened, that this was the first time we'd ever acknowledged any feelings, that there had been no affair, no physical betrayal, that what Marcus had witnessed was the extent of it. But even as we said it, we all knew how hollow it sounded, because Marcus had heard everything, had heard me confess attraction, had heard Olivia confess dissatisfaction with their marriage, had seen us standing too close with my hand on her face, had witnessed an emotional intimacy that was its own kind of betrayal, even if we hadn't kissed. Marcus shook his head slowly, said it didn't matter that nothing physical had happened, that what he'd heard was worse than physical betrayal because it revealed that both his wife and his best friend had been having feelings they'd kept secret, that Olivia had been unhappy in their marriage without telling him, that I'd been attracted to his wife without shutting it down, that we'd both prioritized our own feelings over honoring the relationship that should have been sacred to both of us. He wasn't wrong. Every accusation was justified. Every bit of hurt in his voice was earned. We had betrayed him, Not with our bodies, but with our hearts and minds, and the words we'd spoken in his kitchen while he stood in the shadow listening. Marcus looked at me with eyes I'd known for 14 years, but had never seen look at me this way, with disappointment and hurt and the death of trust. And he said that I needed to leave, that he didn't want to hear explanations or apologies, that he needed me out of his house and out of his sight, that he'd trusted me more than anyone else in his life, and I'd destroyed that trust in the worst way possible. I tried to respond, tried to apologize, tried to explain that I never meant for this to happen, that I valued our friendship more than anything, that I would do anything to undo what I'd done. But Marcus just repeated that I needed to leave. Now. So I left, walked out of their apartment in a daze, knowing I'd just destroyed the most important friendship in my life, knowing that Marcus would never look at me the same way, knowing that even if Olivia and Marcus worked through this, I would forever be the friend who betrayed him, who crossed a line that should have been absolute, who chose a moment of attraction over 14 years of brotherhood. I sat in my car in their parking garage for over an hour, too devastated to drive, replaying everything that had happened, every word I'd said, every touch, every moment of attraction I should have suppressed, but didn't, and worst of all, replaying the look on Marcus's face when he stepped out of that shadow, the way his trust had shattered in real time, the way I'd become someone he couldn't recognize, someone who'd betrayed him in the deepest way possible. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of living with the knowledge that I destroyed my best friendship over feelings I should never have expressed. 6 months of Marcus not returning my calls, not responding to my texts, making it clear that whatever we had was over. 6 months of mutual friends taking sides or trying to stay neutral and failing, because how do you stay neutral when someone betrays your friend with his own wife? 6 months of hearing through those mutual friends that Marcus and Olivia are in intensive marriage counseling, that their relationship is hanging by a thread, that the trust between them may never fully recover because Marcus can't unhear what he heard that night, can't unsee what he saw, can't forget that his wife felt invisible in their marriage, and instead of coming to him with those feelings, she confessed them to his best friend in their kitchen. And 6 months of me trying to understand what happened, why I let myself feel attraction to Olivia, why I confessed it instead of burying it, why I prioritized one moment of connection over 14 years of friendship. I don't have good answers. Can't explain why I crossed that line except to say that in that moment, Olivia's vulnerability called to something in me, made me want to be the person who saw her, who made her feel valued and appreciated and desired. Made me forget for those few minutes that she wasn't mine to make feel anything, that she was Marcus's wife, that my role was to support their marriage, not to become a problem in it. I've been in therapy trying to understand myself, trying to figure out why I made such a catastrophically bad decision, why I let desire override loyalty, why I said things that could never be unsaid. My therapist says that humans are complicated, that attraction doesn't follow rules or respect boundaries, that one moment of weakness doesn't define who I am as a person, but I'm not sure I agree, because that moment of weakness destroyed the most important relationship in my life. That moment of crossing a line revealed something about my character that I don't like, that when push came to shove, when I had to choose between my desires and my loyalty to Marcus, I chose myself. I chose the feeling of being important to Olivia, chose the thrill of attraction and connection, chose wrong in every way that matters, and I can't undo it. Can't go back to that Friday night and make different choices. Can't unhear the things Olivia said or unsay the things I confessed. Can't give Marcus back his trust or his friendship or the certainty that the people closest to him would never betray him. All I can do is live with the consequences. Live with the knowledge that I'm the kind of person who crossed that line, who prioritized a moment over years, who broke something that can't be fixed. Marcus will probably never speak to me again. And honestly, I can't blame him. If someone had done to me what I did to him, I don't think I could forgive them either. Some betrayals are too deep. Some violations of trust can't be repaired no matter how much time passes or how many apologies are offered. I miss my friend. Miss him every day. Miss the certainty of having someone who knew me completely and loved me anyway. Miss the easy comfort of 14 years of shared history. Miss being the person Marcus called when something good or bad happened in his life. But I forfeited all of that when I let myself feel things for Olivia. When I stood too close in their kitchen and confessed attraction, I should have taken to my grave. When I crossed a line that exists for exactly this reason, to protect friendships and marriages and the bonds that are supposed to be sacred. As for Olivia, I haven't spoken to her since that night. Don't know if she and Marcus will make it. Don't know if she regrets what happened, or if some part of her is glad the truth came out even in this devastating way. Don't know if she thinks about that moment in the kitchen or if she's trying to forget it ever happened. Don't know if Marcus can ever see her the way he did before. If he can ever trust her again after hearing her confess unhappiness she'd kept secret. If their marriage can survive both her emotional distance and my betrayal, I hope they make it. Despite everything, I genuinely hope Marcus and Olivia find their way back to each other. Hope they use this as an opportunity to rebuild their marriage with better communication and deeper connection. Hope Marcus can eventually forgive Olivia, even if he can never forgive me. Because they built something real over 14 years. They have history and commitment and love that matters even if it's been damaged. And they deserve a chance to repair what was broken, even if part of what broke it was me. But I also know that some things can't be repaired. Some betrayals leave permanent scars. Some moments of crossing lines create fractures that never fully heal. And the moment Marcus stood in that shadow listening to his best friend confess attraction to his wife, while she responded with her own confessions of unhappiness, was probably one of those moments. A moment that changed all three of our lives irrevocably. A moment that revealed truths that maybe should have stayed hidden. A moment that destroyed a friendship that had survived everything else but couldn't survive this. My best friend's husband's best friend crossed the line. That's how this story started. With me crossing a line that existed to protect everyone involved. And I couldn't pretend I didn't feel it too. Couldn't pretend the attraction wasn't real or that the moment of connection with Olivia didn't matter. Couldn't pretend that betraying Marcus was purely accidental when the truth is, I made choices. Chose to stand too close. Chose to touch her face. Chose to confess feelings that should have stayed buried. And Marcus was listening behind the door the entire time, hearing everything, watching everything, witnessing the complete destruction of his trust in the people he loved most. That's the truth we all have to live with now. Marcus has to live with the knowledge that his wife was unhappy and his best friend was attracted to her. Olivia has to live with the knowledge that her moment of vulnerability led to this catastrophe. And I have to live with the knowledge that I'm the kind of person who crossed that line, who prioritized one moment over 14 years, who destroyed a friendship that meant everything. There's no redemption in this story, no lesson that makes it worthwhile, no silver lining that makes the damage seem acceptable. Just three people whose lives are permanently altered because of one Friday night when I crossed a line that should have been absolute, when I felt something I shouldn't have felt. When I said things I should never have said. When Marcus listened from the shadow and heard everything. Everything. The end.